2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
It's showtime.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Sarah Whizbanger here of the Whizbanger Show. I have got an amazing show for you all today. We are hitting just about every continent in this big bad world we are living in, and I spent many hours curating the show because I really wanted to get out of Europe and the United States, although we got a lot of bands from Europe and the United States. But I've been working on a Global South show for quite a while, and so I wanted to kind of do a little sample of that. So we've got just some great stuff. Where are we going? We're going to Indonesia. We're going to Botswana. We'll be in Germany today. We're also going to be in Sweden. We're going to be all over the U.S. I've got a killer banger of the week for you. If you didn't see it on Wednesday, that's when that dropped. And we're also going to be in Spain and the Netherlands and just all over the world today. I'm so excited to share this great music with you and some of the bands that are new to me. And I think we're also going to Vietnam. Yep, we are. I found some just great stuff, and I kind of went down the Bandcamp Metal Archives rabbit hole thing for many hours, and finally I pulled my head out. I was like, I need to do this show. I need to get this done. So we kicked it off with a band called Arctic Dreams, and Arctic Dreams came to me fairly recently, and that was from Rogue PR, and I want to thank Andrew. This is a new PR company that's been sending me some great underground stuff. They are really super interesting. So they're Russian. They started in St. Petersburg, then they were in Serbia, and I think they're split between Serbia and Germany right now. They are an amazing symphonic industrial Black and Death band, so I thought, what a great way to set the mood for the day. And this is a single that dropped in November of last year. It still is called Frozen Little Beings. Arctic Dreams can be found on Bandcamp, Facebook, on the web at Arctic Dreams Official, SoundCloud, and Instagram. So please go and follow and engage with this band and let them know that the Whizbanger Show sent you by way of Rogue PR. Thank you so much for joining me today on this kick-ass death metal show. The next band I've got lined up for you is my Whizbanger of the week. They're called, I tried to figure this out. I think it's just 7, but it's Svn.Seeker. I really did try. I should have just reached out to the band and asked. But who has time for that with a full-time job and too many hobbies? The track I picked for you is called The Gold Will Rise. This band is from Bristol, Connecticut, and their album Crystal and Gold This is an EP, 2-track album. It was released in August of last year. They can be found on Bandcamp, Facebook, Instagram, Linktree, Blue Sky, and they're on Ampwall. So aside from the fact that I just fell in love with this band as soon as this landed in my lap, and I do believe that this dropped from the Canaries over at Weedian. Maybe, I don't know where I don't know where this came from. But I'm glad it's with me. It could have been just a rabbit hole deep dive of yours truly. That happens way too often. They're a melodic death outfit out of Bristol, Connecticut, and please go and engage with them. You know, one of several bands kind of populating Blue Sky, and I hope that you do too. I'm on there. Look for me. Sarah Whizbanger, send me a message, connect, follow, all that stuff. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook and the web at thewhizbangershow.com, where you can sign up for the Banger Blast. And I've got some really cool Bandcamp codes coming at you this month, later on, soon. And some interviews and stuff like that. Yeah, stuff and things. Linktree, Blue Sky, Ampwall. So Ampwall is the replacement for, hopefully, we'll see what happens with Bandcamp. There's no Bandcamp Friday in April, but there is one in May. Anyway, Ampwall was started by a guy named Chris, and I can't remember his last name, sorry, but you can go and sign up for it as an artist or as a fan. It's very similar but better to Bandcamp. Lots of links, lots of bands on there now, populating slowly but surely. So you can go and engage with these bands and purchase their music that away. All right, thank you so much for tuning into the Whizbanger Show Death Metal Edition right here, streaming from everywhere and nowhere. Actually, I'm still in New Mexico for another month. And away we go. Here is Svn.Seeker. I'm going to go look it up and have an answer for you when I come back. Svn.Seeker with the Gold War Rise off their 2024 August release, Crystal and Gold, which you can go pick up on Bandcamp and on Ample. Thank you so much for tuning in and hanging out with me today on the Death Metal Show, and away we to thank everybody for tuning into the Whizbanger Show and supporting this show. Thank you so much. I love doing the show. I'll keep doing it. I will keep doing it as long as the machines run. Which, who the fuck knows how long that's going to be. That was my new pals, Beyond the Pale from the Netherlands. And this was an independent band. I'm not sure how this one came to me, but I sure am glad that they did because, they recorded a really cool PSA for me and they've just been really supportive of the show and you've heard them a lot on the show. I played Walk the Plank for you. They are from Utrecht, the Netherlands, and the album Monument in Time was released in April of last year independently. BeyondThePale.nl for the Netherlands. They're on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Bandcamp, and SoundCloud. So is the Whizbanger Show is also on SoundCloud. And I've got some Bandcamp codes for you for the next Banger Blast coming out. It was in the last one, so there's still a few left. So you're going to be able to go and grab those bad puppies. Before that was my banger of the week, Svn.Seeker. Okay. So they got back to me about what the name means, and I thought I was missing something, but it's Svn, like Kvult. So the V is replacing the U. So I asked, I was like, what does your name mean? And they were like, what's the Svn, or the sun, pronounced Svn, like Kvult, being sought as happiness. Through life, we strive to find what makes us happy and fills us with joy. So that's what it really means. And you know what, you guys? Just fuck yeah. I love it. I love it. That totally aligns with everything the Whizbanger Show is about. And I love this band. You guys are so rocking. You're so good. It's a melodic death metal band. They're out of Bristol, Connecticut. And I was like, I love this band already. And then I went and looked up and I'm like, oh, they're on Blue Sky and they're on Ampwall. I'm like, man, you guys, yes, you have a home on the Whizbanger Show for as long as the Whizbanger Show exists. Thank you so much. Svn.Seeker, and it's Svn.Seeker. Pronounced Svn.Seeker, like Kvult. I just like saying that. Bandcamp, Facebook, Instagram, Linktree, Blue Sky, and that's svn-seeker.bsky.social, and also Ampwall at Svn.Seeker, and you can go pick up their music on Ampwall, and that's what I think you should do. They are seeking a bassist, and you can go and find more out about this on all their social channels. They're looking for someone over 25, over 21 at the very least, because you guys want to play like over 21 venues. Death Angel used to play at Ruthie's Inn when they were like 11. 10. I think they were 10. A couple of them were 10. In the good old days, nobody cared how old you were. We just snuck you in the back door and called it good and said, thank you, Death Angel. You guys are awesome and you're going to go somewhere. You really are. And look at that. They did. You have to be personable and professional. Harsh vocals are a plus. Able to practice weekly in Bristol, Connecticut. Willing and able to play regular shows in and out of state. Must have reliable transportation and be able to learn new songs as well as collaborate on new material. If you are interested in this, reach out to them. Their Gmail is s.seekermetal. s.seekermetal@gmail.com. So go and engage with these guys. And if you're a bass player, hey, you know what? Go up there. I know a bass player. Jesse, I'm looking at you through the microphone. You're in Connecticut. You're a bass player. Like, you need more projects, I know. But maybe you guys know Jessie May. She's a killer bass player. She's got great vocals. She's a musician. She's an artist. She's a writer. She's a teacher. She's everything that I aspire to be in life. She's amazing. And also a dear friend. So she's writing a book where we are one another's beta readers right now. She's reading my poetry manuscript, and I am reading a book that she wrote, that she's writing about. I think this is public. I feel like it is, but maybe it's not. I don't want to say anything, but we're each other's beta readers. Anyway, she's a bass player and she's in Connecticut, so maybe you guys can get together. I think she actually knows who you are. I think she said that she loves you guys on the Instagrams. So there you go. A match made in heaven, and you already know each other. So there you go. Okay, next up is a band called Aversed. They are a progressive melodic death metal band out of Boston, Massachusetts. And I'm going to play the track for you, Cross to Bear, which was released on their album Erasure of Color, which dropped today on M Theory Audio. I want to thank Austin over at Secret Service PR for hooking us up, and Aversed on Bandcamp, Facebook, and Instagram. So away we go. Thank you so much for tuning in and hanging out with me. I sure do appreciate y'all's company. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that. I got stuck in my head for a second. But I'm going to shut up now and play some music. Thank you so much for tuning in and hanging out with me today on the Death Metal edition of the Whizbanger Show. Here's Aversed with Cross to Bear, right here on the Whizbanger Show. Streaming from the frigid mountains of Mexico.
Alone and
All right. And we are back. I'm Sarah Whizbanger, your host with the most, and you can support the show and find more podcasts and find out everything going on in the Whizbanger universe by going to the whizbangershow.com, sending me a message on Instagram, Facebook. You can email me at whizbangershow@gmail.com, and you can sign up for the Banger Blast on the whizbangershow.com website. That was a band out of Chicago, Illinois called Immortal Bird. And I'll tell you what, I knew about this band. I played them years ago. I've been a fan for a really long time. And as I was going through all my playlists and figuring out what I already had in my coffers, I still have, never mind. Gonna keep going. My hard drive took a dump and I lost a lot of music, and Immortal Bird was one of them. And, but it turned out I had something on Bandcamp, so I downloaded that. But that was from 2013. And then I thought, what's this band up to? And so I looked it up. Lo and behold, they had an album that dropped last October called Sin Querencia, Without a Place of Belongings, translates to, from the Spanish, on $20 spin. And normally, because I'm on Earsplit PR's list, I get all the stuff, all the promos from $20 spin. Somehow I didn't get it, or I don't know what happened, but I looked, I didn't have it. So I pulled the trigger about the goddamn thing because it was so good. And I was so happy to know that Immortal Bird was doing new stuff. Immortal Bird can be found on Bandcamp, Facebook, Instagram. They have a link tree. And this album, Sin Querencia, can be purchased on the Bandcamp page for $20 spin. And that's 20, the number, buck spin. And I played the track for you, Consanguinity. I can never pronounce this goddamn word. It's one of those words that just gets stuck on my mouth and does somersaults. But it means of kinship. Maybe if I say it really slowly, Consanguinity. I still think that's wrong. They are a death black sludge crest band out of Chicago, Illinois, although they don't like to be called sludge. I went on their Facebook page and there was like this whole thread about that, and I thought that was funny. And I was like, whatever, it's really good music, it's really heavy, it's really intense. It's perfect for the death metal show. So that was Immortal Bird with Consanguinity. Maybe I got it right that time. Before that, a band out of Boston, Massachusetts. Boston, Massachusetts is also the name of that state. They're called Aversed, and I played the track for you, Cross to Bear. They're from Boston. I just told you that. They're a progressive melodic death metal band, and the only progressive death metal that I had on the show today. And so I thought it went really well with the genre-free heavy band Immortal Bird. Aversed can be found on Bandcamp, Facebook, and Instagram at Aversed Metal, so go and engage with this band. I want to thank Austin over at Secret Service PR for sending me this track. This band is on the label M Theory Audio, and their album, Erasure of Color, drops today. It drops today, March 21st, 2025. You can pick it up over on their Bandcamp page. All right, that brings us current. Next up, we are headed over to Spain, Catalonia, to be specific, to listen to a band called I practiced this one even. Onirophagus. It's Onirophagus. Onirophagus. I looked it up. I couldn't find a meaning to it, but I'm playing the track for you, Land Sickness. Oh wait, I did look it up. Look at me, all having my shit together today. So Onirophagus is derived from the Greek, and Oernos, it means dream, and phagos means eater or devourer. So it translates to dream eater or dream devourer. Dream devourer. I'm gonna call it Devourer of Dreams because it sounds so much more metal. And in January of this year, they released an album called Revelations from the Void on Personal Records, and I got this from Nathan over at Suspicious Activities. Onirophagus is on Bandcamp, Facebook, and Instagram. You can go check them out, engage with them, follow them, and tell them that Sarah Whizbanger sent to you. As you sit back, relax, let me ease you on into this death metal-y weekend with the track Land Sickness from Onirophagus. Thank you so much for tuning in and hanging out with me today. are back. I'm Sarah Whizbanger, your host of the most. You're tuned into the death metal edition of the Whizbanger Show, streaming temporarily from New Mexico. Then I'm headed to Denver, then back to the Bay Area, then for a quick jaunt to Spain, and then settle in here in New Mexico, probably. Who knows? And that was a band called Holy Death out of Long Beach, California, by way of Las Vegas, Nevada, US&A. Their album Paradise, or Paradise, it's spelled Paradice. Their demo released independently in March 7th. It's March. I still keep forgetting it's March. It's like the 21st. Yesterday was my husband's birthday. How about that? Happy spring! Oh my goodness, we're in spring! Yay! Officially in spring. Would like for it to stop being freezing ass cold here in the mountains of New Mexico. Anytime would be great. Anyway, Holy Death, a Doom Death outfit out of Las Vegas, Nevada. You can go pick up their demo Paradise on Bandcamp at Holy Death Doom, Facebook and Instagram, Holy Death Doom, and they've got some shows coming up. They are playing in Atascadero at the Dark Nectar Coffee Shop. That sounds intimate and awesome. And then they're playing in Chico. Then they've got a show in Eureka. Wow, awesome. I said, Sierra, if you're listening, go see this band. You'll like it. Taqueria Mila in Santa Rosa. And they're playing in Long Beach. A little cool tour at Gilmore. What cool little venues. I love this. Sorry, I shouldn't say little. That's disrespectful. They're just cool venues. But they are little, and it's awesome to see a band at a small venue. When Holy Death gets huge, and you could be like, I saw them in a coffee shop in Atascadero. Before that was Onirophagus from Catalonia, Spain, with the track Land Sickness. And Revelations from the Void dropped in January of this year on Personal Records. You can engage with this band and pick up their album on Bandcamp, Facebook, and Instagram. Onirophagus. Next up, we're going to New York to hear one of my favorite bands, Castrator, with the track Dawa of Yusufzai. And I have more to say about this amazing track from this amazing band. They are on Dark Descent Records, and I got this from my pals over at Clawhammer PR. You can engage with this band and pick up their latest album, Defiled in Oblivion, which dropped in 2022 on Dark Descent Records. Just told you that. They're on Bandcamp, Facebook, and Instagram at Castrator Band. And go and check them out. And away we go. Here's Castrator with Dawa of Yusufzai. I'm Sarah Whizbanger, your host of the most, and you're tuned in to the death metal edition of the Whizbanger Show. Thank you so much for tuning in and hanging out with me today.
They thought that the bullet would silence us, but they failed. Weakness, fear, and hopelessness died. Strength, power, and courage was born.
back. What's up, y'all? I'm Sir Whizbanger, your host of the most, and you are tuned into the Whizbanger Show, Death Metal Edition on spring. It's spring. It's the second day of spring. Happy spring, everybody. I hope it gets warm and cuddly, and I hope that spring brings good things to this goddamn country, because we need it. We also need Superman, Batman, definitely Captain America. Yeah, we really need Captain America. Wonder Woman, Captain Marvel. We need them all. I'll take the fucking Silver Surfer right now. I mean, like, we need some superheroes in our midst, y'all. Bring it. Black Panther. I can't think of any other ones that are on my mind. I really want to go see the new Captain America movie. I haven't seen it yet. Want to go see that. Hey, did you guys hear that Spinal Tap 2, The End Continues, is coming in September? Who's going with me? Oh my goodness. I'm so excited to see this movie. Yeah, I watched a bit on YouTube with Paul Schaefer in the aging, not Nigel, god damn it. What's the bassist name? What's Harry Shearer's name in the movie? Well, it doesn't matter. Because my brain is going to. The End Continues on the Whizbanger Show. Anyway, it's hella funny, and I'm excited. Were we just talking about superheroes? I don't know. I don't know what we're talking about. What's going on? I have no idea. It's spring, and that was Disgusted. And I played the track for you, Corrupted Ego. Okay, now this is a band that I found doing some crazy deep dive. I don't know. I was just trying to find bands out of, North America and Europe. And I know that there's like there's huge swaths of death metal all over the world. And it was fun listening to all these bands, but sure did interrupt my day and my workflow. But this was a band out of Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam. And this is a single that dropped in 2022. They're called Disgusted. I had a really hard time finding anything about them. I found some stuff on Metal Archives, but everything had been deleted. But they do have a Bandcamp page, and it's Disgusted on Bandcamp. The only thing you can get is this single. They also have a blog spot, Disgusted-band on blogspot.com, but it's ancient, like from I don't know, the early aughts. I couldn't really find anything about this band. I did find I found a Facebook page for a band that does like releases, or a page that shares out like Nepalese extreme metal, and they were mentioned on there. So I emailed that guy and I was like, do you know where I can find more information about this band? But I can't. But weren't they killer? I'm a fan of Disgusted from Vietnam. Before that, Castrator with the track Dawa of Yusufzai, pardon me. And they are out of New York, and their album Defiled in Oblivion is their latest release on Dark Descent Records. I got it from Clawhammer PR. Castrator on Bandcamp, Facebook, and Instagram. The song is a tribute to Pakistani activist Malala Yousafzai. I can never pronounce this woman's name. Yousafzai. The song uses audio from her speech you probably heard that she did at the UN, and it exemplifies the band's commitment to raising awareness about injustice and celebrating those who stand up against them. I love Castrator. They are one of my all-time favorites, and yeah, Defiled in Oblivion, back to front, up and down, side to side. Just what a perfect album. An album that not like every death metal band does this, but I recommend that you listen from start to finish to really sort of get like the complexity of this album. It's so incredibly good. All right, next up, let's go to Sweden to hear a band called Puteraeon. And I picked the track for you, I Am the Darkness. This is a single that dropped this month, the 7th of March. I think it's spring. I'm all like spazzy. On Emanzipation Productions and Puteraeon. It's Puteraeon. Puteraeon. They're on Facebook and Puteraeon on the web. They're also on Bandcamp and Instagram, so you can go pick up their music and you can engage with them and follow their socials and tell them, of course, that the Whizbanger sent to you. This was a single that you can pick up on their Bandcamp page, and away we go. Here's I Am the Darkness. Thank you so much for tuning into the Whizbanger Show, Death Metal Edition. I'm Sarah Whizbanger, your host with the most, and here is Puteraeon with I Am the Dark. promised you we were going to go all over the world, didn't I? That was Porta Magna with Cult of the Flesh. This is a death metal band out of Luanda, Angola, and this is a single that was dropped independently in 2021. You could go and engage with this band and pick up their music at Porta Magna on Bandcamp, Facebook, Instagram, SoundCloud, and they have a YouTube channel, Porta Magna 3234. They are amazing. They have 2 singles and a full-length album out, and I'm trying to get more from them. Wait, no, I'm a liar. I was thinking of another... Wait, am I a liar? One never knows. No, they have... 2 singles. The other single is called, I remember. I bought them both. The other single is Swallowed by the Ocean, which I was going to pick, but this is the reason I picked. So after I listened to it, and you can hear that at the end, right? You know what that is. So this is a band that's basically, all their songs are like horror movie focused. Candyman is one of my all-time favorite horror movies ever in the whole wide world, ever. And I just, anything Tony Todd has ever been in, I'm like, oh my God, I'm a Tony Todd freak. But the new version of Candyman, and I think it was, who produced it? Hold on a second. I'm going to look it really quick. So, who did, so he died, so Tony Todd died in 2024, and in 2021, he was in it again. And who's the woman who directed it? I can't remember her name. I'm totally going off on it. Nia DaCosta. Oh yeah, and the Jordan Peele wrote it with Nia DaCosta. She directed it, and it was amazing. But oh my goodness, such a good movie. And I was really worried. I was like, oh, I'm not one for sequels and redos and stuff, but Tony Todd's in it, so I'm going to watch it. And it was hella good. Anyway, so the very end of the song of Cult of the Flesh is a line from Candyman. So that made me happy, and that's why I picked that one. But they do have another single on their Bandcamp page. They're from Angola. They're called Porta Magna, and you should go and pick their shit up because they are awesome. Puteraeon from Sweden before that with I Am the Darkness. Their single, this was a single that dropped on the 7th of March this year on Emanzipation Productions. Puteraeon, Puteraeon. And you can also engage with them on the web at puteraeon.com. And they have a Facebook and an Instagram page, and they have Bandcamp and all kinds of other things. I'm looking on their website now to see if I missed any. Nope, nothing I missed. I imagine they've got some videos up on their website. I imagine they're going to have some tours coming up relatively soon, though, with the new release. Okay. Let's go back to the United States, and we're going to listen to a band I've played before. They're called Necronomicon Ex Mortis, and I put him next to Porta Magna because they both are like horror movie death metal bands, which I love so much. And so this track is Salem's Lot, so it's about Salem's Lot. And you can you can engage with this band on Bandcamp. Necronomicon Ex Mortis Band.com. Instagram, they have a link tree. I got this from John over at Asher Media Relations, and their album, The Mother of Death, was released independently in November of last year. And that brings us current. No, what am I talking about? Doesn't bring us current. I'm leaving you to listen to this band. My brain is not working today, y'all, but you know what? Who cares? I'm playing good music, and that's what you came here for. I hope. All right, here is Necronomicon Ex Mortis with Salem's Lot. You're tuned into the Death Metal edition of the Whizbanger Show. Thanks, y'all, for tuning in and hanging out with me and supporting underground independent music and underground independent podcasts. Wind it on down. I'm Sarah Whizbanger, your host with the most. You're tuned into the Whizbanger Show Death Metal Edition, number 254 on this lovely March spring day. It's spring. I'm so happy it's spring. It's been a long winter, man. We were in France for a long time, and where we were, it was just like kind of gray and rainy. So we have not been in like warm weather in hella long, y'all. Hella long. So I'm excited for the warm weather to come. Very excited. I just want to bake. I don't like the cold so much. Okay, sorry, sidetracked. That was a band from Germany. They are a death metal band out of, I don't know how to pronounce this town, so we'll just say Germany. Bielefeld. I'm going to guess that's what it's right. I played the track Til Gerät Untergang, and that translates to Toward Your Doom, or Toward You to Your Downfall. We're going to go with Toward Your Doom. It's way more metal. Let's see. So this band's album Landkrieg released on Testimony Records on the 7th of this month, March. On Secret Service PR is where I got this. So thank you so much, Austin, for sending me great stuff. Scalpture can be found on Bandcamp, Facebook, Scalpture Official with a hyphen in the middle, or Instagram at Scalpture Official, and that's SCALPTURE. The Google kept wanting to change the name of the band back to Sculpture. I'm like, not the name of the band, but thank you, Google. All right, Necronomicon Ex Mortis was Salem's Lot. They're from Chicago, Illinois, and their album, The Mother of Death, dropped independently in November of last year. You can engage with this band, follow them, and pick up their music by looking for Necronomicon Ex Mortis on the web, on Bandcamp, Instagram, and Linktree. And that brings us current. All right, we are going to go. I'm dedicating this to my husband because he's awesome, and he likes death metal a lot, but he's super picky, and even more than I am. And but I already know he's going to freaking love this band. So happy birthday, Marcus. I love you so much. This one goes out to you. This is a death metal band out of Ganzi, Botswana. They're called Overthrust, and I played the track for you, Demon's Grave, which was a single released independently in 2021. They are now on a Florida label called Indian River Music Company, and I reached out to them, and they've got a whole bunch of great underground bands from all over the world, so I'm really excited. Lots of death metal. Hopefully they will reach back out to me, and then we can start a friendship. Overthrust 3, and that's the number 3 on Bandcamp. They have a Facebook page. Just look for Overthrust Death Metal Band. They're also on SoundCloud and Instagram. And I think they also have a YouTube page. I'm not sure though, but they have a couple of singles. And I think they have an album out that's just dropped last year. Overthrust 3. Demon's Grave is the name of this track. And so this goes out to you, Marcus. Happy birthday, honey. I love you. Getting mushy on the Whizbanger Show. You're tuned into the Death Metal edition of the Whizbanger Show. Thank you so much for tuning in and hanging out with me and enjoying this heavy, heavy death metal edition of the Whizbanger Show. golden, and that's it. And this is the last you'll hear from me before I send you out into the great wild world with my last track of the day. And I know you're going to love it so much. But first, Derek Smalls is the bassist for Spinal Tap. I don't know why I was like brain farting on that, but there's a 10-minute YouTube video of today's Derek Smalls with long gray hair being interviewed by Paul Schaefer. And if you know the Spinal Tap universe, you know that Paul Schaefer was in the original movie. I'm stupid excited to see this. I cannot wait. All right, I get nerdy about certain things, and boy, howdy do I. All right, that was a band out of Lexington, Kentucky called Pyromancer, and I played the track for you, Perverse Immolation. Their album, Absolute Dominion by Fire, will drop on the label Adirondack Black Mass, and I got this from Nathan at Suspicious Activities. The album Absolute Dominion by Fire drops on the 9th of May this year, and you can go pre-order this album on their Bandcamp page, Pyromancer. They're also on Facebook, Pyromancer Black Death, and then this album is on the Adirondack Black Mass Bandcamp page. That's where you can go pre-order it, and that's what I think you should do. Thanks, Nathan, for sending me great stuff. Overthrust from Botswana before that with Demon's Grave, going out to my husband on his birthday yesterday. Demon's Grave was released in 2021 as a single independently. They are now on Indian River Music Company out of Florida. Overthrust 3, that's the number 3 on Bandcamp. They're also on Instagram and SoundCloud, and they have an album that just dropped last year, and they have a Facebook page. Look for Overthrust Death Metal Band. All right, I'm leaving you with the band from Tehran, Iran. I told you we were going all over the place today. Sargas is the name of this band, and the track I picked for you is Hell because it's the single. It's the only one that was out. It was released on March 7th this year on the label Metal Incorporated, and I got this from Sam over at Sodeh Records, and I'm not sure if it's a dual release or if Sam, you are doing the PR. Wasn't sure, didn't have a chance to reach out, but thank you for sending it over my way. The Sargas on Bandcamp. They're also on Instagram at Facebook at Sargas Official. And that's it for me. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Whizbanger Show Death Metal Edition. I sure appreciate y'all's company. Have no idea what's happening next week. Don't know. Haven't decided yet. There's no Bandcamp Friday in April, so we're not going to have a Bandcamp show. Probably doing the Subterranean Sound Waves because I've got enough stuff for a show for that. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in and hanging out with me and supporting the show. I sure do appreciate you. Please go and sign up for the Banger Blast on the whizbangershow.com. Reach out and let's hang out, let's chat, and tell me what you're doing. And if you want your band on the show next week, let me know. All right, that's it. Be good to yourself so you can be good to others. Go hug a tree, pet a dog, smile at a baby, and have a good goddamn rest of your weekend. Later!